Siamo tutti italiani, solo che io non sono italiana e mentalmente ho preparato anche tutto in inglese. Per quello magari faccio la presentazione, poi chi vuole parlare italiano o inglese va bene, facciamo un mix globale della cosa. Yeah, please have a seat. So, welcome to this very different moment of the day. And after this panna cotta, I think it's very difficult to keep us alive. But don't worry, I'm not going to talk only, but I will make you also work. So this should help digestion. Let me introduce myself. So I'm Bettina Gehrke. I'm a teacher in university. Bocconi. So in a certain ways I'm here with two hats. So I'm a university professor. In fact, not only me Bocconi, in fact there's one of my students from the past in Bergamo. So I have a life as a university professor, mainly actually teaching international classes, on master level. So typically I have about classes of 60 students with 25 different nationalities. So basically the global issue, it's not only what I'm teaching, because I'm teaching international human resource management, but obviously I find globalization also in my class, which in fact is challenging, and this is actually also where the title of this presentation comes from today. It's about teaching, but obviously it's how we teach something global, but also how global people in my class actually appreciate what I'm saying as a professor. So it's all also about learning. And there is obviously very strong intercultural aspects, because according to from which education system you come, you learn also to learn in different ways. So this is one part. The major part actually of my professional life, I'm working for Bocconi. So basically this is an educational moment where I see the same guys I see at universities about 10, 15 years later. People within their careers, mainly working for multinational companies. So I'm a lot involved in management development. So typically my clients or the companies I'm working for are multinationals which are in a phase of integration, of global integration after merger and acquisition, and in a phase of integrating their people, not only their structure and their processes, but also they have to integrate people due to that. So I'm doing a lot of intercultural team building, but everything which is where let's say culture is involved. And obviously speaking about globalization, culture is everywhere. So this and you will understand a lot from what I want to share with you today is very much from both sides of the medal. I put together some questions and facts I wanted to discuss with you. So one thing is certainly the point of speaking about university curricula, where is the global aspects and how does it show itself, and what do universities do? And maybe even though we are here in this very Italian environment, maybe we should also look a little bit outside Italy, what is happening there. And then there's the major question of this conference. So we speak about global citizenship, and the question is, please. The question is, how do we teach this? How do we teach this? So I'm happy that we have you with here, because in fact I got a lot of inspiration yesterday with your workshop as well. In fact, I think the real shift is when we speak about education, how we can teach global citizenship is not only to give people knowledge and information, which is obviously important in order to sensitize people, but we have to talk about how really people become proactive. Because the point is really how we can change a situation and how we can become a better world. And you might notice that actually of the three things I want to talk with you about, there are two of the things are question marks. I like to anticipate immediately that I don't have clear answers about it. I like to share with you my experience, and I like also then to discuss some ideas, but there's still some ideas, not reality. And maybe we can, in fact, we have 2 flip charts here, so maybe we can make some brainstorming and come up with some concrete output about it. Before I continue, may I ask you a little bit where you're coming from and what you're doing? And I think it's also because we do some group work later that we briefly introduce ourselves, and maybe also you say if the organizers just put you into this workshop, or if you have some special interest in here. Maybe you like to, Diana, to start?
I chose to come to this workshop because I work for Interculturale in the national office in Berlin, and I deal with global education daily because I am in the hosting, I'm the hosting coordinator, so I deal with foreign students coming to Italy for the various programs. They're all school-based programs. We offer the students orientation throughout the program to help them reflect on different aspects of global education throughout their stay in Italy, which is a very program generally. So any input or any information sharing we have here could be useful.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, my name is Chiara. I come from Treviso, but I live in Perugia. I'm studying the University for Foreigners there, and I'm studying international relations. And I was interested in the title of the workshop, so I kind of like it.
Okay, but you're also, let's say, in the university environment.
Yeah, that's yeah, because we study with a lot of foreigners, and we're like, it's a very particular environment in our university.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Shambhu Shivananda. You call me Dada.
I think we all, you know.
So I chose to come here because I'm interested in the subject of leading international movement on humanist education. So,
Thank you.
I'm Silvia. I'm a teacher in Italian high school, but actually I'm a student PhD in immigration and intercultural process at the University of Genoa.
My name is Alda. I am a volontario interculturale volunteer, and I am in mio ruolo è sviluppo e formazione, and so I think it's very interesting to understand. And well, in my life I'm an agronomist, so I really don't think about that, but it's okay. I'm really very interested in this subject.
I'm Clara from Lecco, near Milan. I'm an FS volunteer, and I'm really interested in these topics because as volunteer we are in a task force for intercultural learning, so we try to understand how can we make our job as interculturale better.
My name is Davide. I am Italian, but I'm actually living in the Netherlands, Amsterdam. I'm a master's student in artificial intelligence, and I'm in the same task force as she is, about intercultural education. So I'm pretty interested in how actually we can teach students about become active citizens, especially in this global environment where we're living.
My name is Marianna. I come from Bergamo, so near Milan, and I'm also a volunteer for EFS, and I'm also a trainer for volunteers. I'm really very interested in the role of teaching in making new citizens, so that's why I'm here, just to have new hints from other countries too.
Yeah, as Marianna, I'm a FS volunteer, I'm a trainer. And the reason is the same, plus I'm also a mother of 3 children and many children around the world, so I think the role of teaching is very important.
Okay.
My name is Daniele Archibugi. My latest book is titled The Global Commonwealth of Citizens, and I've been asked by the Cambridge Journal of Education to explore how these ideas would apply to teaching and learning. And therefore, since I'm not yet a clear idea, I was expecting to get from Bettina some inspiration.
You haven't been there when I was introducing the workshop. And I was saying that I have more question marks than real comments
I have
today.
that. Yes, I was already here.
I'm Barbara. I'm studying a PhD in pedagogy,
at Bicocca University, and I'm also a primary school teacher, and so I'm very interested in the theme of teaching and learning.
My name is Alberto. I'm an AFS volunteer here in Italy. I have no business-related reason for being here. I'm just very interested in the topic.
Good.
I'm Cristina. I'm an AFS volunteer. I'm in charge of school relation in local chapter of Palermo. I'm also mother of 3 AFSers. One has already been abroad, and the 2 of them are going abroad this summer. And I'm very interested in making my son, first of all, a global citizen, and also I'm interested in how to develop global citizenship. And I personally think it's not only a task of school and education, but the main education starts at home.
I'm Silvia, I'm an AF volunteer, and I have the same reason to be here, because I am mother, I am teacher, and I work for AFS, so that's all.
Well, I can say the same thing and more, that I take part to the same task force as Davide and Clara, and I'm also father of 3 AFSers. I was an AFSer myself, and I think that we have to do something to make this world better. It's becoming worse and worse, and I think we should really do something.
So what is nice, we have the whole dimension of education here. So we have parents who are concerned about educating, giving values and educating their children. We have elementary schools, so we have university setting, we have researchers. So I think, you know, this is a promising knowledge group, I would say. Actually, when we speak about university, and there in this respect, please. In this respect, actually, if you want, Italy is maybe not even representative, but if we speak more on a real international level, universities have reacted to this already in the last 10 years. And I think also the boom of interculturale is a reaction to something which actually the world is requiring. And I'm working obviously for a business school, for an economic environment, and I think the faculties of economics and management were the first actually to respond to the challenge of globalization. I think today there is not a single textbook for management which has not a global vision. Because basically the companies already understood, even the mid-sized family-owned business in Bergamo, in the hinterland of Bergamo, is international today. So if they want or not, or they have the globalization in-house, or basically business is today, and obviously global and international. And the tendency is very clear that actually everything becomes more and more interconnected. So actually the business schools and the economic suites, some schools like Bocconi, for them it was a question of survival to respond to this. A little bit because there were some people illuminated, and I think also a university like Bocconi has its in DNA to be international. So it's part, let's say, of the corporate values to be international, but also because, let's say, the market of those students, we are preparing students for what? To work in companies, and the companies actually requiring skills, attitude and knowledge which actually forced universities to respond to this. I want to give you just some figures, and maybe then we can share this with your experience. So what is the international global aspect of Bocconi? So first of all, Bocconi the university has about 14,000 students. So we can say that a priori, when they start already a university, 10% of them are actually enrolling in Bocconi because they want to make an international degree. So there was a huge boom in the last years, starting actually already decades before, but today Bocconi has 200 partner schools worldwide. And within these partner schools, you even have the possibility to make double degree. So you get a Bocconi degree, but then also you can make it in HEC in France, or you can make it in Mumbai, or in Fudan, in Shanghai. So you make double degrees. So actually, particularly the emerging markets, this is also, we see that actually the whole educational sector is strongly globalized already. That a school like university decided they have offices in Mumbai and in Shanghai. So there's a staff of between 2 and 3 people constantly working there in order to cover, let's say, the markets of China and India. So we see here again, future markets are not in Europe, but the future is in Asia. So here again, we see the strong impact of education, that actually the work world is forcing us also to change our way of educating. So from these partner universities, we have, so every year, so these are the figures from 2009 and 2010, we have 1,200 students coming in every year. But we have much more students actually going out. So what is interesting, so most of them really are looking, and a lot of them actually are interculturale kids. A lot of them are looking really for possibilities to study abroad. So they go out for 1 semester and study in another university, or sometimes a year. But it's not only for studying, it's also for doing internship. So a lot of possibilities to make stage outside Italy. In fact, this is the figures of what actually what are the internship in the job offers, which are outside. Then when we have a look of how many of the students who graduate in Bocconi actually work outside, it's about 15%. How does this relate to your university setting?
Well, most of the people that come from the university where I'm from work in the 50 miles area around the university. My nephew, who graduated from Bocconi and who was an AFSer in Kansas, now works in Brussels. So it corresponds exactly to what you said.
Well, yeah, I'm teaching at Berber College, University in London, and I would say that about, I try to count English students in the audience at the master level, and I think they are less than 20%. And the majority of people, they come from, in the majority of cases, they come from racial minorities. So English, but blacks, Indians, or even Italian.
My master course at the University of Amsterdam, also we are more than 70% international student, all over the world. I mean, a lot from Asia, but also US.
Some other examples from Italy?
I had 2 experiences. First of all, I had a degree in linguistic mediation here at the School for Interpreting and Translating, and there was, people coming from, 50% was from Lombardy region, but there were also people from other countries too, and I think the 50% of the students could have the possibility to study abroad for the Erasmus program, and also I think that 40%, 50% are now working not in Lombardy but somewhere else, in Italy or in Europe or in other countries. But I think that it's also because it was an interpreting and translating school, so probably because the focus was on languages and cultures, so probably for this reason. And also I did a master degree in Gorizia at the International Diplomatic School. So there too was people from all over Italy and from different countries also European countries, and there too was an intercultural surrounding. So I think most of the people that get a degree there go abroad.
I had the experience of studying in IESE business school in 1991, and already then in my class we were international class, and we were 52 different nationalities in the same class.
So what we see actually, what looks like a great statistic, is very impressive. But I'm not here to make publicity for Bocconi. But this is impressive only for an Italian scale. This is absolutely best practice, even average, below average on European standard. So I think United Kingdom is a particular case, but if we take Spain, if we take Germany, if we take France, this is absolutely best practice. It's standard. So here again we have to in fact, let's not look always around ourselves too much, but obviously I think the measurement, the benchmark shouldn't be other Italian universities, but the benchmark today for Italy, I think, have to be other European countries. So this is a little bit to give the context. If you want, maybe Bocconi is something like best practice for Italy. But in Bocconi, there is not a single class which is closely could be considered that they're teaching global citizenship. I'm teaching cross-cultural management, but interesting not to Bocconi students in Bocconi, but only to international master students of a CEMS master, which is an international corporation of 20 different universities who make a master. So basically, I'm teaching to these incoming students cross-cultural management, but for Bocconi students, there's no way that they can learn anything about, notwithstanding if they do undergraduate or postgraduate or PhD programs, whatever, anything which is related, for instance, to intercultural management or cross-cultural management, which is in all the Anglo-Saxon, so it's standard knowledge. So you see, what it's great here. There are no formalized programs about it. Do you know of any formalized programs, university programs, where you can make a degree or you can get credits for studying global citizenship?
Yes.
Yeah?
We got a course in the Faculty of Continuous Education and of Citizenship, which is a master course on global citizenship.
Which university?
Birkbeck College, University of London.
Do you know anybody else? So I tried to Google in fact, to look university degree or academic classes, undergraduate, postgraduate classes in global citizenship. And everything I found was in the US and some in the UK. So I think there are two questions behind this. One question is, so is it what we are speaking about, also this discussion came out yesterday when we speak about global citizenship, and the concept is, do we speak about something which is very Western? So is it our Western mindset that we need something to talk and we need a conference to make in global citizenship? And all the rest of the world, speaking about, South America, speaking about Africa, speaking about Asia, there is no need for such. Obviously, this was a rhetoric question. But I think the need for the contents of global citizenship, I think it's strongly, I believe, is something universal. But maybe also the way to do it, the way we are talking about in this conference, is a very Western way to approach it. In fact, it's also interesting that no other country in Europe has programs like this. And I guess it's also a factor to, so what is global citizenship? And if you follow carefully what was the discussion in the last day, we heard a lot of definitions about it, and I think it's we can't really say that there's a common definition about it. Maybe we can discuss this later. There are even some things I thought there might be contradictory, yeah?
What did you find when you Googled something from the United States or the UK? What are
So what they're doing, I can tell you this. So there are, I think so basically most of them are undergraduate courses. I think there's Drake University, they have something on a master level. And it's programs on sustainable development, it's about social responsibility, it's about political, economically, socially, culturally, technology, environmental understanding of the interconnectedness. It's about value and diversity. So it's a mix of a little bit of everything.
I think I'm from the United States and I teach at a couple of universities here, and what I find in speaking to the students is they don't know anything about the rest of the world. So if you want to teach about global citizenship, it's simply how to appreciate what's going on in other countries. And I think that's part of what they're trying to overcome at the university level in the universities. At the University of Massachusetts, we have in food science, about 80% of the students are from some other part of the world. They're not from the United States or not from the state of Massachusetts. And they adapt very well to what we do in Massachusetts. The people from Massachusetts don't adapt very well to what goes on in the countries where they're from. So that's an important aspect of teaching Americans, and probably the British too, how to appreciate what's going on in a different place and how to have a positive impact rather than just being a big pain in the neck and saying, I know what's right and you don't know anything. So I think these are important aspects of global citizenship.
I think this is in fact, this is not a workshop to give an answer to this, because maybe tomorrow when some, the poor guys who have to put everything together with a talk there, maybe they will address this issue. But obviously, maybe we can agree on the fact for the time being, we're speaking about a vision. We're speaking about some ideas, and we don't even have a common understanding, a consensus about what is really global citizenship. And obviously here again we are in a very Western world, so we might ask you, Dada, who has more experiences also from, for instance, from the African vision or from the Indian vision or from the Chinese vision, what means global citizenship to them. So we are missing here, let's say, 2/3 of the world discussing the subject. So we have to be very modest about, and so I would, for me, a working definition would be to speak about global citizenship as a vision for the time being. So it's very clear, if we don't have a consensus about what it really is, that obviously it's clearly we don't know how to translate this into formal programs, university programs. So there is no surprise, and actually it's interesting that only the Anglo-Saxon world has the courage or the mindset or let's say the objective that they are able to create programs, to put it in formalized programs and have the courage to teach something like this. But as you said very nicely, we don't know what really comes out of it. And I think here, in fact, I would like to go to this very important point. In fact, so what does it mean, a vision? So I can teach the knowledge and I can give information and sensitize people about social justice. And can about the sensitivity to the renewable environment, energy use. Or I can teach them to be sensitive to about the social problems of global migration. So, but I certainly don't make global citizenship with this. And here we are to the point, so if global citizenship is a vision, so we're speaking about a destination. We're speaking about something which is in the future. So we're speaking about which is absolutely unstable, because the world is continuously changing and we have to adapt what is changing. In particular, in the last years, we've seen amazing social change around, and people find it difficult to adapt. So it's when global citizenship is a vision, it's it's a journey. So it's a development of managing situation, please come in, about what is in fact moving all the time. And I think the big thing, the big issue about it, it's about how we prepare our students to change. So if we say the whole thing here is about change, it's about a changing world, it's about changing cooperation. So I think everything we heard yesterday in the various aspects of globalization. So when I have by now about 20 years of experience teaching students intercultural sensitivity. So obviously, if you are more experienced, you start to become more sophisticated in your training methods, and I think also in the cross-culture field, in the last 10 years, there have been an amazing level of new knowledge. So theories became much more sophisticated as in the past. So we have more categories, sophisticated categories to analyze also culture different as compared, let's say, to 20 years ago. But if I'm really honest about it, if I can really tell if my students go out and are they really becoming interculturally sensitive? Are they really behaving differently when they come out of my class, university class? And I think, I see you. So everybody actually who's teaching, doing these things, and usually, even if I hopefully, Bocconi is very strict about it. Whenever you do a program, you ask for student evaluation. So I get immediate feedback about what students think about it. But obviously, the questions asked in this questionnaires ask, do you think that there was a good didactic max? Do you think that the professor was interactive with class? Do you think that there was enough knowledge? And sometimes, if they're good, they're even asking, do you think this is useful for your work life? So this is already met. But again, this is not these competences we really need to know if we want to make global citizenship. So. I'm telling you this so in details because I want to be very honest with you, because I want to share my dilemma with you. And I'm looking at your faces, I think this is something I think we all live this situation. So trying to look for new ways. So obviously, if so far we done things as we did, even becoming more sophisticated and becoming more experimental, because obviously we know that if we really want people to learn something, it's not that you give them a lot of reading, but you don't show them nice PowerPoint presentations about how they should behave when to interact with Chinese, or all these things obviously don't get really into people's gut feeling. So certainly more than, let's say, again, 10, 20 years ago, we use much more experimental learning also in the classroom. But only having talked within the last 24 hours over lunch and in the evening with interculturale people, I think what really made them change their life was staying, when they was young, in school time, 1 year abroad. So obviously, it's these experiences what really make people change. And this is what make people change to become volunteers in intercultura. So how can we transport something like this, obviously, in a classroom? Because we are obliged to, however, to give an evaluation to the students at the end of the semester. We are, however, obliged to get a raster that we make also the results comparable. So we have to formalize our structure. I'm very, very strongly convinced that if we continue to do things in universities as we do now, we can't expect to have different results. So if we try to make something out of the box thinking, and this is what I like to do with you, my experience, I told you before that I'm working a lot with companies who are in a process of change. So we help them to develop their people who actually have to run the change. So there are people in the marketing department who organize the marketing communication process. Then we have people in the production part who have them to adapt the structure. But so what I and my colleagues are doing in our department is actually to help people to adapt to changes. And there you learn a lot. And how we have to do change. Or you learn also a lot how not to change. So I like to show you a traditional procedure when you have a change. And I think we can agree on the fact that speaking about making global citizenship, we speak about managing change in an effective way. So that really things we do in a different way than before. So if we look at change processes, at the traditional way, how initiatives where you have to introduce a major shift change. So what is happening? Usually it's something like this. So you have a vision, or in companies you have a strategy. And we have, of this conference, we have this vision to, to make responsible young people taking active responsibility, becoming global citizenship. So the typical thing is, if you would have this hypothesis about this illuminated university who is believing, and maybe your university is one of these universities, so you create a structure which actually you make an undergraduate program or a master program where you introduce it. And then you create actually a didactic process where, and you communicate about it, you try to sell your program outside that actually students come and pay for it, and so on. So basically, then you hope you set up a good teaching environment where you get a lot of mix of interesting things, everything reflecting the complexity of what it means to be a global citizenship of all the different aspects. So basically, the idea is with all these things filter down and that people in the end become global citizenship. And I think this is the great illusion. I think this is the great illusion. So this is the normal process of how organizations introduce change processes. According to the study you're reading, but we can say that about 60% of change process introduced in organizations don't fit the expectations. So there is a majority of change process actually are not successful. So usually this is not written in the textbooks, certainly not of the textbook of managers. But this is what I see in corporations. And then they do another change process. They introduce another great, they have another concept. They have McKinsey coming in, and they're introducing a new analysis, and they're introducing a new management system. So they know that communication is important. So we spoke a lot about communication. So people are all sensitized. People know how different. So there's a vision. The CEO comes over and said, we have to change. If we want to survive in a global world, we have to introduce this management system. So everything is here. So very difficultly they try to adapt also the organization structure to fit this new management system, which is supposed to bring the great change. Again, and they assume by doing this that people actually will use this new management system. But this is not the case. And the majority is not the case. In fact, the big shortage of this is that most of the change process don't speak about changing behavior. In fact, how can you do change? So we can't impose change, because if we really want people to behave and do different things, you can't tell them and say, now up from now, the 1st of April, you have to adopt this and change. People are not doing it. If people are not touched by this inside, they won't change. So, in fact, when we try to take this mechanism and try to see what we can learn out of it, maybe this is a mechanism to try to understand how we can use this knowledge also for us who have in the educational field to change. No? So, this is the let's say, the typical change process. Usually you have, a minority, and we had this discussion also, by the coffee time and over lunch today. Like here we in this conference, like Interculturale, you're a small group of volunteers who in the end we don't have to convince how important it is for global citizenship, because you're already the elite. You're already these people who broke the paradigm and are innovating. In fact, Interculturale is going a step further because they want also to create something like a majority. So actually, you have an enormous, Interculturale has an enormous multiplier, multiplying actually of what is, let's say, your mission. So then you have some more people. You have more people actually that go abroad and then actually change something because they say, I become a volunteer of Interculturale and I will help other people to make the experience I do and take responsibility for what is going around in this world. So this is the project. So what is interesting when we study actually change project is that you arrive at a point where you have enough people who actually behaving in a new way, and then you come to this famous, I don't know if you heard about it, it's the tipping point. You arrive at a point where actually, so everything goes very slow in the beginning. But then actually, if you arrive that you have enough people who really do enough, take responsibility, become volunteers, go abroad, help other ethnic minorities, do community work, that actually they become examples and they're contaminating. In fact, we speak about viral change, that actually other people become copying it. And then you come to this famous tipping point, actually, where change is self-generating. You don't have to do anything more, but it's automatic and change is generating by itself. So the secret is obviously there are very little experiences empirically how to arrive there. You have a question?
I never heard about the tipping point. I always call that critical mass. In intercultura, in physics,
yeah.
If you send abroad 2 guys each year in a small community, you're not going to do much until the point when those 2 guys are going to be 2 times 15, 20 years. And then in a small community, you're going to have the what you might call the ruling class somehow, which is more inclined to favor, the ideals of what we're doing. That's when you reach the critical mass point. And then after that, you can survive and work for 20 years. You don't have to look for families to host students from abroad. You don't have to look for students to go abroad. They just come. You have just to cope with all the workload you have produced. I think it's if you have a good idea, it's a virus. You have to cope with the fact that sooner or later it will spread around.
So in fact, what is the slide? So there's certainly the law of physics behind it. You're right. So it's the critical mass. But what in fact this is the tipping point is referring to a concept by Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote a very famous book about it. How in fact spreading ideas then become viral, actually contaminating all the rest, let's say, of the system. The slightly difference is it's not only here about ideas, but that people doing something. In fact, ideas are spreading very fast, like fashions are spreading very fast. But maybe we could analyze what is happening now in the Maghreb states. So maybe there's something happening here. Like we have to see at what times, if the change is really self-generating. It's too early to tell. But the idea is in fact, for the small examples we have really to create sustainable change, we can create only sustainable change if actually the change process starts from the behavior of the people. And it's not only the top-down thing, but there's also the behavior is reflecting back to, let's say, to the system. And in fact, so we spoke a lot about that the international mindset is important. Do you remember? We heard this many times in the last days. No? We need an international mindset in order to create global citizenship. So what is the global mindset? It's a cognitive frame which is nice to have, it's important to have, but it doesn't do anything. We had this discussion. We had, it doesn't do anything because people don't get up and see there in front of the door that actually people, coming, with boats, immigrating this country, but don't go and help. So it's really the comportamental, the behavioral aspect is really important if we really want to create something like sustainable change. So this is also, I feel it's also, this is an idea a little bit born out of my frustration of teaching, and never know really what is happening afterwards. So people, in fact, maybe might remember after a year, the concept they heard, if I've been good telling it. But I don't really make people take responsibility and take action about what I told you. So, and how can we do this? So maybe we should also go away from the idea that it's a good thing to have a master's program in global citizenship. Maybe this is not what we need. It's certainly teaching global citizenship, whatever it is something very interdisciplinary. The other day I was teaching at the International Teachers Program. This is an international program where young teachers, young lecturers come from all over the world and in order to prove their teaching techniques. So I did a workshop for them about teaching a multicultural class. So we spoke about the different approach of learning and teaching and that actually our culture cognitive frame makes us learn in different ways and so on. And there was, I remember perfectly, there was a professor who was teaching statistics. And he said, I am not interested in all this stuff. Obviously you can afford all this stuff because you are doing this organization behavior, this soft skills stuff and so on. This is your problem. I'm teaching statistics. Leave me alone with this. I have 120 people in class. I have to my exam. I have just 48 hours. I have such a book knowledge I have to give them over. I have no space for this stuff. And I challenged him very strongly. Why can't you transmit also ideas, values about social citizenship when you teach statistics? What actually are, when we do statistics in developing countries, what do we measure in the statistics? Is this reflecting reality? And so on. So there are a lot of actually, whatever you teach, you can find an aspect which is relating to global social responsibility. So this leaves still open how actually we can teach this. But maybe we should, in fact, really start to think out of the box and do something completely different. And this is what I would like to do with you now. So if we really start, I don't know, do you share this hypothesis? That the behavior is important? And actually, if we really concentrate on the behavior, that maybe we can do something different, introduce change that is filtering down in a different way. It's an hypothesis, working hypothesis. But it's also a little bit reflecting to my experience of seeing how change is happening in organizations. For instance, if you have very successful, not on a big scale, but I have examples on a small scale. So if you have really successful companies, they have only 6 different leadership behaviors they all agree on. And if the top management sticks to these 6 different behaviors, leadership behaviors, there's, for instance, Oracle. It's one of a really, really successful company. And they have a management system, a leadership system, that did like this. I have another example of Nivea in India. They did the same process. They said, let's discuss what are the leadership behaviors you like. What is your ideal best boss? And what is the boss you don't like at all? So they did a workshop, consensus about it, and they agreed on, again, I think for them it was something like 4, 6, maybe I can show them later to you also, leadership behaviors, management behavior, what they're called good behaviors and bad behaviors. So good behaviors, we want to show it that it's there every day. And if somebody is new, is coming into the companies, they want to see that this is happening. And we want to avoid the negative behaviors. And if somebody is behaving in a negative way, we control ourselves and say, no, don't do this. This is not part of our agreement. So I've seen this in small, medium scales, that this is working. And this has immediately impact in the economic world, in the corporate world, on performance. And this is actually how you get managers to change, not because they believe very much in it, but because in order to survive today in the corporate world, you have to show performance. So they understand actually if they establish management processes and structures according to these models, actually that the outcome is much better. People are more motivated, people work together, people really create more value to the organization. So this is working. So why should this not working also in a university environment? So maybe we should not speak about programs. We shouldn't speak about curricula, what we should do in an undergraduate program on corporate social responsibility. But maybe we should only speak about behaviors we want to have. Behaviors which you can see, which are concrete, which are simple. Only if they're simple, concrete, observable, they will create viral change. If they're not obvious, if you can't see them, if you can't touch them, they won't spread and people won't do it. So if we could agree on these behaviors, so why don't we share this with our colleagues? As okay, can we agree on this? And how then do we introduce this in our system? So my Bocconi system is yours. If you are in a primary school, obviously you have to adapt this in your system. So if we go to India, this you have to do it in a different way. So it's not, let's forget about it, how to prescribe other people how they have to teach. So people know very well. So if you're a passionate teacher, you know very well how to get across your message to your students or to your pupil or whoever you are teaching. But it's more, what we want to come out in the end. Ideas? Realistic? Utopia?
One question, what kind of a feedback do you get from your graduates who are working someplace? Do you have a system of getting information from them about what success they had using what you taught them?
It's interesting. So Bocconi obviously sends a lot abroad. There is no control about whatsoever. We have no idea what they're doing there. They even don't train people to go abroad.
I'm not talking about even abroad, but even locally. At the University of Massachusetts, we set up a advisory board of graduates, particularly PhD graduates, but also master's graduates, who then advise the department about what they should be doing. And they are all of these people that are members of this board have been very successful at the industry level. So they're from various food industries, because it's the Department of Food Science. And because they're from these companies, they actually give money to the university. So you get a double benefit from having something that gives you a feedback from your graduates who've been successful. Like he said, 50 miles from the university. Well, probably the University of Massachusetts, the graduates are 2,000 or 3,000 miles at the most, or myself, 10,000 miles. That's a different story. So having some kind of advisory system that is a feedback system at the same time, I think is very important, because then you find out does this system work? Is it improving the performance of your graduates vis-a-vis their interface with the world?
My experience, in fact, is only with the corporate world. And here, obviously, there you can measure very clearly that it's working. So the two examples I'm telling you in particular, I followed more details, this case of Nivea, Bayersdorf group in India. So it was even a German multinational doing business in India. So it was adding another layer of complexity to the situation, and it worked, very successful. So again, we're speaking about something we don't know, but what I know that is what we used to do so far is not working. And I think this was also, so let's use out-of-the-box thinking. And somebody yesterday quoted Einstein, no? He said, if you created a problem from one point of view, you can't solve it from the same point of view. So this is a little bit what I try to do, to think about new ways. So in fact, what I like you to do now is exactly this. So if we could split up in 3 groups, and I like you to think about concrete, and maybe we come up with nothing, I don't know. I never done this before. So, we can discuss, and that's why I think it's also nice to split up in 3 groups. So we do 3 separate brainstorming for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, according to how much time we have. But then see what comes together. So, and you might also find that it's really difficult, because so far we speak about this big buzzwords: global mindset, social responsibility, intercultural sensitivity, value and diversity. So what does this mean in behavior? So what is, for your situation, what are the behaviors you wish to have if you want to have your ideal global citizenship? So, yeah?
Well, I mean, I don't want to stop it, but I mean, from what you said, it seems to me that there are at least 4 different ways in which we can understand educational learning for global citizenship. You hardly concentrated on one aspect, and this aspect is, I mean, as you clearly said, is something which is associated to the business sector and the need to train managers and management, So we know that corporations have to deal either because they're multinationals or because they got a lot of employees from different countries with new problems. I mean, for example, Italian companies with operations in the United States may have a serious problem to understand that some behavior which is acceptable in Italy is considered sexual harassment in the United States. Or we may have problems in dealing with employees from a variety of countries. And this, of course, is very important, but it's something which does not give necessarily a sense of global citizenship. It's just educating and training would-be managers to act in a global context, And this is the first aspect. The second, which is also associated to the business sector, is what we can call business ethics. Business ethics is becoming more and more a global issue. Corporations start to be under challenge. They might have adverse actions by non-governmental organizations. They need to do that. Quite a lot of business schools start to have courses on business ethics. And this business ethics is not any longer national. It starts to be global, because if you dump your toxic waste in another country, of course, this might create a serious problem with the company. There are 2 other issues which I think are also equally important. And the third one is global belonging. So, to what extent education can help individuals to perceive that they just do not belong just to one community, but they belong to the world community. And this seems to me, from what I understood from yesterday and today, is the main mission of interculturale. They are less working on on the management side, on the business side, they're more working on the education of the citizen rather than the education of the manager. And therefore, you perceive the sense of cosmopolitanism in the sense that individuals, starting when they are students, perceive that they belong to a wider community. The fourth one is the global responsibility. So you start to think that your actions, whenever you start to teach to students that their actions, whenever they are, have a global reach. And therefore, this is what we discussed yesterday in terms of citizenship education, what in Italian is called educazione civica. It was called educazione civica, which was mainly understood to be part of a state, and which now is more and more integrating aspects which are also above the state. And I think when we speak about making global citizens, at least we should take into account these four different aspects. And I would like to urge that not necessarily educating managers to behave in a global context means that these managers will be better citizens. They might be more effective managers, but not necessarily better citizens.
I completely agree that we have to see how far we can translate this experience. This is working in the corporate world, if we can translate this also in the rest of the world. But the idea of viral change actually is also proven in many ways in the social context. So in fact, the viral spread of new ideas, for instance. So, but obviously, I think there is a mechanism which is very powerful. It's a powerful, again, that we go back from this, and I think this is also because I see myself as an educator, and like people here, you are educating. So it's good to have a vision, but we have in front of us students, and we usually have to do things in a very concrete way. So I see that actually we arrived with our traditional ways of doing these things at a limit. Things are not changing in the speed people need to change. So I appreciate very much your workshop yesterday, because Dada was also saying it's probably something else we need. It's not a question of to local adaptation. So I think this is not a discussion I want to have, which is obviously necessary, but I think this is written on a different sheet. But we need something else. We need something, in fact, to look out of our box. In fact, you were proposing a whole, let's say, maybe a spiritual layer in order to get really people involved into change. In fact, this is also in things nobody, so I think also your ideas in this big, let's say, visions got a little bit lost, but you made it in your workshop very concrete. So I'm also a teacher, and obviously I see immediately the feedback and get measured also according to what I see an outcome or things I don't see. So I'm looking for concrete answers. I think we are not lacking visions. I think we are not lacking great ideas. I think, just had a look of all the really good, important things we were discussing in the last hours. But what I, as an educator, I need very concrete ways to start to induce change, evoke change. Because we can't impose change on this level. You have people to motivate to change themselves. So how do we do this? So if you agree, why don't we do 15 minutes of brainstorming in 3 groups? And to give you, and you will understand that it's not easy to shift from these great ideas to concrete behavior. Some people might think this is trivial now. This is not, it's difficult. It's extremely difficult. You will understand how difficult it is when we have to translate our big concepts into something I can see that she is doing, and how to give a name to this. And give a name to it that it's really clear, observable, understandable for everybody. I will give you, obviously this is, to give you in fact we can, if you maybe can help me to distribute this. To give you a little bit, we spoke about it, that we don't have a common understanding what global citizenship is. To give you something we certainly can agree, has an understanding of how the world works economically, politically, socially, culturally, and so on. Is outraged by social injustice, participates in and contributes to the community at a range of levels from local to global. So I think this is respecting a lot of interculturale values. Is willing to act to make the world a more sustainable place. This is a huge discussion we had also this morning. Takes responsible for their actions. So this is, you know, can we all agree on this? Maybe there are other things, but let's say maybe for the sake that we have only 15 minutes to do this, if we take this as a work definition, and if you, for your context, and I think we will find out that everybody has different contexts, and maybe we come up with something universal, or we come up with completely different things. So this is really experimental. I have no idea what comes out here, and I have no idea what I'm supposed to present. So it's all in your hand. So let's make a brainstorming for, we have to finish at 17:30. 1 hour left. So for 15 minutes, have this brainstorm. We have 2 flat charts, and maybe for the third group in this week we can take some leaps. Make a list of, using this definition, and make a list. Maybe it's also for you easier to make a list of what you think, what is toxic, what is the worst thing we should do in order really, you know, to avoid, in order to arrive at our vision. Or maybe you find it easier to think about the positive things. Try to have, at least maybe you come up with a lot of ideas, I don't know. Try to, in small groups, to think about 3 concrete, observable actions, you know? What are positive, what you think is needed. And 3 negative. Okay? Shall we, maybe we do it like this? Yeah. Can you? I think this is, we can change this, move there, move there. Or maybe, I don't know if you, yeah, 3 groups. I want to do 3 groups. So if you like to put everything on a flip chart, you have here this flip chart here. So as psychologists are trained to think in these categories.
Not necessarily but some of them.
But obviously if you come as a developmental psychologist from the Anglo-Saxon world, it's all about, you know, making behavioral change. The whole idea of positive psychology. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm coming all.
That's behavioral psychology.
Behavior, yeah, not clinical. Behavioral psychologist. You know? So obviously, I don't know, you know, what is your background, but obviously my background is business, so I'm everything but behavioral trained. So it is difficult, and we see also here how difficult it is, and probably in fact the people are teaching get closer to this, but still we fall back into concepts. So maybe let's collect what we have, and I take notes of this, because I have to also the pleasure to present your comments. So what are the examples of? Let's start with positive behavior. So what did you find out in your group as positive?
Non-discrimination.
Ascoltare, listening.
So they said non-discrimination. Let's start here. Non-discrimination. Is non-discrimination? What is non-discrimination? Is non-discrimination behavior? How do I see this? Do I see? Behavior is what we see. It's a concrete action you can observe.
Act equally with people of different condition or nationality. How to say? I don't know.
Inclusion, or if for example different segments of the population are not represented in the board of directors or in the policy making bodies, then that's an obvious expression of whether some people are being excluded or they are being included, or it could be a reflection of whether there is any.
So what do you do in order to make sure that this is happening?
Well, you make certain conditions that at least 20% of the, or according to the population, that percentage of the minorities or the should be represented in the.
So would something introduce quotas for minorities in the company you're working, or in the village you are managing, or in the board of your school, or whatever? Okay? Other?
Listen.
Listen. Most simple in life and the least used.
Yeah.
Listening to whom you have in front. Huh?
Observing. Put yourself in others' place. Try to think how you would behave, how you would think, how you would react.
If you do this, I don't know that you're doing it.
What?
When you think about putting yourself in my shoes, I don't know that you're doing it. So it's not a behavior.
But
it's
I
thinking.
think what really changed people when they do an IFS experience is that they really are in the other shoes. For instance, one Italian guy became one Chinese guy, in a sense, for 1 year. So really he is putting himself in Chinese shoes.
So what is the behind? You discussed it. So what do you have to do in order to practice empathy?
Sorry,
You said this. You're asking questions. Ask questions.
Ask questions.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Get information about rules.
Yeah. Then we discussed about different questions, because somebody said that asking questions can be bad.
Mean on
So then we
certain
discussed
kinds.
if you ask questions, there are different types of questions.
There are different types of
Yeah,
questions.
also the
Say,
kind
can I put questions?
So it's asking question in a culture-sensitive way. Because it's very clear when you're in America, you can ask very direct question. It's positive and shows that you have a lot of empathy. Obviously, when you're in Japan, it's not the case. You have to ask in a more indirect way of question. But it's usually a lot of things I think are culturally universal. But obviously, putting it in the intercultural context is adding another layer of complexity.
One thing about asking questions and about what you said about the top-down attitude. The most top-down attitude is asking questions. If you think about, think about. Yeah.
Have you ever been to the top boss in your hospital?
Yes.
Ordinario?
No. When I want to bother someone,
but does he ask you a question?
Sono d'accordo.
Please, go on, because you made a statement but you haven't substantiated.
Ok.
Go on, because it's interesting.
La persona che ti vuole uccidere sul posto del lavoro, io penso sempre all'ambiente di lavoro perché è quello che poi per noi ci confronta tutti i giorni nella nostra drammaticità, eccetera. Non è quello che ti dice quello che devi fare, ma è quello che ti chiede se hai fatto quello che dovevi fare, quindi è una domanda. È quello che ti domanda perché così, e sei tu che devi dare la risposta. Cioè l'onere della prova, il ribaltamento dell'onere della prova è quello che mette il giudicato davanti al giudice. Allora, è il giudice che fa le domande, non il contrario. Sono situazioni particolari, però in realtà fare le domande. Come?
Che ore sono?
Sono d'accordo.
Quanti figli c'hai?
Certo.
Preferisci il succo d'arancia o il succo di
Certo, no, io cercavo di dividere
So
perché...
maybe we can, in order to share this idea. In fact, we asking questions. So we said maybe you were also saying if you want to say sincere question, because the example you were giving in your work environment, the boss or somebody who's mobbing you, the question is that it's not a question, but it's a rhetoric question, but actually it's imposing you very much. It's not a sincere question, but basically giving you an order. It's giving you somebody who's giving you an order wants to control you. So I think this was not the intention. So maybe we can become more sincere. That asking sincere questions in a culture-sensitive way. Okay? Because I think you can admit that usually, particularly in a very high power distance, people, your boss is never asking a question, but is giving order. And so this is a nice Italian way to give an order. Wrapping up it in a high context question, but in the end, the substance.
I was going to say, it really depends on who's asking the question. It's still top down. Whether it's a polite way to say that you're stupid or directly say you're stupid. Either way, it's top down and it doesn't work.
So I think here we're in the middle of the important thing. So in fact, the intercultural sensitive behavior is opening a huge discussion. So this is again that whatever we say here about behavior is we have to contextualize the thing. And that's why I think it's not that when we want help people to teach this thing that we should give them guidelines, order and so on. But obviously with the complexity of the context and the global context we are working in, it always depends on if it's corporate world, if it's university, if it's elementary school, if we're in China, if we're in Germany, if we're in Italy and so on. So that's why it's the idea, my idea, so let's go to the very basics and leave it then up to the people to contextualize it in an intercultural sensitive way. Do you came up with other?
Do not judge.
Anche voi.
Didn't heard what you said. Do not judge. Non giudicare.
La sospensione del giudizio.
Others?
Okay, I like that suspended. Wait
Before judging.
Yes.
In fact, so here we say, in fact, this is, now we are really within the sophisticated, so wait before judging. Or wait before evaluating. No, in fact, we had the asking thing, and usually what we say, we asked, we interpret and evaluate. No, the famous DIE exercise all intercultural trainings do. So usually we do this automatically, but we have to be conscious about it. In fact, another thing, I had indirect in your discussion, but I would say observing.
Abbiamo detto.
How about do not hurt others by thought, word or action? Do not hurt others by thought, word or action. Is that not a behavior? It's also.
Do not hurt.
Yeah.
Whatever this means.
Yeah.
Here we are, his example could say, I'm not hurting, I'm just asking a polite question, but in the end, I like very much your example he said, because obviously he has the idea of environmental sustainability and said when you cut a tree, plant 3 others. Because I think this is also a very concrete, nice behavior.
Responsibility.
Yeah, obviously, if you want, you can take this, we can take this, if you allow this very concrete behavior in a metaphorical way for a lot of other things as well. What else? I think you still have something on your list. Non imporre. How do you say this in English?
Don't impose.
Not impose your idea?
Yeah.
Or maybe this would be a toxic behavior.
Yeah, that's toxic.
So
Impose your ideas, it's more a toxic behavior.
Because it was linked to the top-down.
Yeah.
Top-down directions.
Mm-hmm.
Avoid top-down directions.
Yeah, and actually we put it the chat, like avoid chat or like wait for chat in the toxic too.
Yeah, in fact, what is true in a positive way. Others?
Yeah, no, we don't.
Others?
Io c'ho.
Do you have something still on your list? So we don't. We didn't come up with 3 plus 3. So we have introduce quota for minorities. Listen.
That's debatable.
I write so bad that I can't read it anymore. This is really bad, you know. Listen to. Listen. That's it.
Just listen.
You said just listen.
Just listen.
To whom you have in front, I wrote.
Yeah.
Now, ask sincere questions in a culture-sensitive way. Do not judge. Wait before judging.
Be coherent.
Even asking questions.
Be coherent. I think you had
And not discrimination.
So you made we spoke about it. Be coherent is saying
Do what you say.
do what you promised.
Yeah.
Provided you promise something good.
So observe.
Respect others' opinions. I don't know if it's an action.
What about the toxic behavior you wrote about the imposing ideas? Can be made in a positive way, like drawback behavior.
Feedback.
No. I'm thinking about an attitude.
It might be simply a weakness.
No, not necessarily.
Might be.
Might be. If you think about a beautiful mind, you know, the ability to step back a little bit. Can we make a behavior of it? Can you define a behavior of stepping back, which is, I think, it's one of the most brilliant ideas in order to preserve peace in the world many times. You know, the ability to say, okay, I step back.
This is linked probably to observation. So if you observe before without judging, immediately step back. No?
I think those are different actions. Observation is one.
Il fatto di trovare un comportamento per ogni singolo.
In caso ce ne sono milioni di comportamenti.
It's just to know, to be informed.
So observing for being informed.
Not necessarily connected.
Comportamento rispettoso.
So,
Partire alle 10 di notte a Ferragosto.
I mentioned again feedback because if you want to teach about global citizenship, you really want to know, are you making an impact? And the only way you can make an impact, the only way you can evaluate that is to find out from the people whom you've taught what they think about it later on. So seeking feedback about your actions as a teacher are extremely important, because otherwise you just keep on doing the same thing and you may be doing the wrong thing.
So I think this is very nice because it's not only asking for feedback, but seeking feedback, what makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, seeking feedback behavior is really important. I don't see, in the university life very much. It's not the professor.
Well,
so you are done with the statistical evaluation, but
we have a very formal system at the University of Massachusetts where we appoint graduates to come back and give advice about how they are using what they learned and how that teaching may be changed to make it more effective. And it works very well. So maybe if you have a bunch of graduates that you know about who would be interested in doing that, you could ask them to be part of a committee that would come back to you once or twice a year to say, we really appreciate what we learned here and it's of great value to us, or we think there might be some changes available and so on. And the ones that we've appointed at the university are all with industry and they give us money on top of it, so just think of that.
Wow. But I think, for instance, this is a very concrete action, so which then it's you see how behavior is reflecting back to structure. You know, the slides I did show before. So if you introduce feedback-seeking behavior, that means your university, you go back to a structure actually where it's giving you money, that you established meetings 1 or 2 times a year where students come back to give you feedback about what happens. Very nice.
The money is used for seminars and other things, so that they can discuss in depth some of the problems or actions that are identified. It's a beautiful system. It works very well.
I think it's a beautiful example, you know, coming to make this very concrete. What I wanted, you see that this is very much work in process. Thank you very much for sharing this in a very open way, because, as I said, I don't have an answer to this. So it's for me also experimenting. So the idea, you know, to experiment something new. How do you feel after this? Is this a sense for you that, you know, okay, anyway, it's not done, it's not for me? Or what is your sense about this? Feedback-seeking behavior, honestly. Is it too far? Is it too theoretical? Is it too abstract? Do you think we can, it's still something we have to work on, because I think it has to be perfectionized, because it's our cognitive frames are not psychologically trained. So maybe we trainers need more psychological training. Maybe this is something we have to do, because I see it with myself, how difficult it is to do this exercise, yeah?
I was wondering, I show some statistic about University of Bocconi, and it was amazing, so how many students are actually leaving your university and going to study abroad. But when I was studying in Italy, I also went abroad. I just applied for an Erasmus program. I got accepted. But I was really happy, but that was it. I mean, university didn't do anything. So my question is, okay, can we in some way enhance the quality of this program? Because actually, when I went abroad during my Erasmus program, I was actually seeing other students do the same program, but I was kind of wearing the glasses that I built my program that I did with interculturale. But the others were just kind of wearing tourist glasses. So actually the experience that they were having were not enhancing the, let's say, their citizen, exactly. They're not, they were not feeling like part of the city where they were actually living. They were not actually putting any effort in doing that either. And when we got back, they were enjoying the time. Obviously, enjoying the time is one of the part of the program, but maybe we can actually enhance the quality of this program, put some global citizen concept inside it. So could we actually have some orientation to Erasmus students, let's say Italian students that are going abroad, before they leave, and actually we can get a feedback when they get back?
I absolutely agree, because international exposure is not making you interculturally more competent. And for instance, but obviously, in Bocconi, I don't. But for instance, I can tell you an example of a comparable university in Europe is Vienna. They almost have a little bit more. They have maybe 15,000 students. It's a very similar. It's only for economics and business. They have the same figures as us. They do 2 days of training for any student who is leaving the university, and have at least one day of training for re-entry.
Yeah.
So for them, it's a standard procedure. So obviously these guys who are going out, like the Cultura guys who are going out, see much more and understand much more. And of course we could, I think to work on the formal way, there's a lot of things where we can sensitize. And certainly the experimental part of internationalization of universities, if we actually accompany them with training and awareness training, we make the experimental part, which is fundamental, because my sense is that they only really learn in the experimental part. Yeah, to be honest, this is teaching this for a long time, but this is really what I think is what makes the difference.
Well, one of the most difficult things to do is to go from theory to practice.
Yeah, here we are.
Well, talking this in Italy, I mean, it's so a shame in my opinion. They're no intercultural program at all. They're just like, okay, exchange university, I can explore a new way of teaching, new way eventually of studying because I need to adapt to it. But that's it. I mean, I really, really don't see any intercultural learning behind it. And it's so a shame in my opinion that the University of Italy is wasn't this program.
I would like to introduce one element there is value verification, which is the foundation for behavior. People act differently because they have different beliefs, they have different values, different things are important for them. And those values, many times they are colored by our religion or our different belief systems in our society. But today what we need is cardinal human values. If we want to build a society in which we don't want the problems and clashes, then I think there needs to be more emphasis on understanding what are cardinal human values. It doesn't matter whether you are Muslim or Hindu or American or Chinese or rich or poor. What are cardinal human values? And if that is emphasized, and then what are the behaviors which stem from those cardinal human values? And how they can be brought within the structure and expressed through policies, actions, and come into our education and legal frameworks. So I think that
I agree. We have to go back to the roots, to the very, very basic universal values. And yeah.
I think that I agree with that, but there's some piece. I mean, of course you have your values, and often your behaviors reflect your values. But sometimes, and it happens to me all the time, my intentions, so my value, and the way I am able to translate my values in the way I talk, the way my position, are not consistent. So, for instance, sometimes I know. My children tell me all the time, I sound much more aggressive or assertive than I feel. So you need feedback somehow, because one point is your values and how you act, but then is the way how you act, how is interpreted by the other. So it's a constant feedback. I mean, that is the first thing.
Yeah, of course,
is important. It's not a guarantee. Somehow, and it's behaviors who are interpreted by people you don't know yet. I mean, so
but
all
I think
this.
in fact, but this is in fact how it gets contextualized in the cultural social context. This is something we can't control, because this is exactly what you said in your school system. So you agree on basic spiritual values, but how this gets lived in Long Island in the United States or in Calcutta, a completely different thing. But there is something very underneath. But we are still at the moment still in the phase that we speak about the global citizenship. We still don't agree on everything. Because I think tomorrow morning we will see if there is a consensus about things. But for instance, somebody this morning said it's for him global citizenship is to know at least 4 languages. Right. I don't agree with this.
I don't either.
No? So we are still far away. So you're very right that we still have to discuss on it. So we can only agree on it if we go to the really, really deep level values. So really what all humanity has in common, what all religions have in common. And there is something. What I wanted to make clear with this workshop, so, if we are not able to link values to behavior, if you're not able to link our ideas, our visions to behavior, and if we as educated also we are not able to link our teaching to behavior, it's a fine intellectual exercise, but we don't make an impact.
There is, may I add something? I think we have a...
So I'm German, so I become
some,
nervous when you are late.
I have, you know, one of my questions is, when we teach intercultural abilities, is that a neutral type of attitude? We try to, no, it's not. You think
I don't know.
no,
I
you
don't
say
think
no.
they are. Sorry.
Okay, okay. When we, you know, languages, you know, the knowledge of languages, for example, is the basic tool in order to be a global citizen. But you can be a perfect multilingual exploiters of other people's work all around the world. That means, you know, we have to divide, you know, to screen between values and abilities, because abilities can be used in both right and wrong ways. Okay, so I think we have to define somehow, you know, what are we teaching? I'm teaching you to be a good person, which can be respectful of other people in the world, or I'm just trying to get another big boss for a multinational enterprise. The abilities in both ways are not as much different. The values are different.
We're struggling on it. Is there something, what do you want me to tell the plenary about this?
I'm looking forward to what you have to say.
It's up to you.
I don't know exactly how to put this together. Is there something, one thing you think it's really important?
Well, let's say the idea of starting from behavior, that's so the reverse process, so it's not starting from a strategy and getting to behaviors, but start from behaviors too, then get to strategy is really important. And obviously we can find out what
I want. You're running the planner, and so anyway, you have 5 minutes.
I would say 10. Well, it depends. Let me see how many of you.
Because I think there are many.
That's why there are 9 people
We
now.
have an hour and a half, but a little more. Because, you know, Roberto told me that even if we take one more,
we can start a little bit later.
So let's see how many.
Because I think it's very nice to make short, compact second round. Because I think this is not.
Le nostre abilità, io mi ricordo 20 anni fa.
I was trying to go.
20 anni fa.
No, I'm happy that we had a psychologist.
Il nome perché secondo
Thank you.